Welcome, everybody, to the Joe Lee Podcast, the Wild Card Weekend Edition. I'm your host, Joseph Yanez, and as always, I'm accompanied by...
Hey, I'm Lee. How's everyone doing? So welcome back to this week. I think this week is going to be super exciting because of what?
Because it's a wild card. I mean, we only got a couple games left. A lot of really good teams, so it means that most of them will be really quality matchups. Some of them are. There's maybe one or two matchups that might not be great, but we're just super glad that we finally made it to this point. And let's. We're gonna talk about some of the happenings that occurred during Week 18. Teams that made it to the playoffs, teams that didn't make it to the playoffs. If you watched the episode last week, or watch any other NFL media, you pretty much know who we're going to talk about, who I'm going to talk about specifically if you watch this podcast at any point. And you know what Lee's going to talk about because, if you haven't watched us in a while, I'm a Chargers fan and Lee is a Niners fan. And for the most part, we had identical seasons this year. Except for Week 18, which kind of changes everything else, but we'll get into that. So, right now, I'm going to give you the Chargers report of the week. And it, unfortunately, is the final week of the Chargers report of the week. And I'll be shifting my focus to a more objective point of view, covering other teams and... trying to just watch NFL and enjoy for what it is. But so I'll start the report by saying that, it was a great season for the Chargers. There was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of really good games, a lot of really bad games, a few bad games, actually, not too many. And productive season overall. Now, I want to talk about the Raiders game because... a lot of people are saying, well, hey, this is a really good playoff team. This team deserves to be in the playoffs. They're really good. And people just generally wanted to see the Chargers over the Steelers, which I think for the most part, people are right. The Chargers probably would be a more entertaining team to watch in the playoffs. But I will say this. The Chargers are their own worst enemy. Because a lot of what happened during the Raiders game was not the Chargers' fault. Was not because the Raiders were a better team. It's because the Chargers managed to screw themselves out of a victory. There were a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad play calling, a lot of just incomplete passes by some of the wide receivers. It was almost like Justin Herbert was throwing perfect passes and none of the receivers were wanting to catch the ball. There was a lot of dropped passes. And it's just those small mistakes that ended up costing us. Yes, the Raiders had a lot of key plays that ended up winning it for them, but for the most part, I feel like it was the Chargers ruining it for the Chargers as opposed to the Raiders completely beating us out. The turnover near the end zone was bad. The dropped pass on special teams was bad, and those are things that cost us. Another thing that was really bad this year was overtime victories. We didn't seem to be able to finish out any games in overtime, which was not a great thing. It happened during Kansas City, and I was really praying that the Chargers were going to be able to win the coin toss. Again, 50-50 chance. And I thought, if the Chargers win the coin toss, then that's it. The Chargers are going to win the against the Raiders. And unfortunately, that didn't ended up happening. Raiders were the first one to receive, and again they went and they scored 3. Then we went and we scored 3, and at the end of it, the Raiders were the ones who had possession of the ball. And it really sucked because they were the ones in control, and they did score a field goal at the end of it. there was a lot of controversy with the calling the timeout or not calling the timeout at the end of it. Both teams were scrambling. It was the heat of the moment, and when the timeout was called, it kind of gave the Raiders some time to collect their thoughts and decide whether they were going to go for it or not go for it, and they decided to go for it. And unfortunately, our run defense, which was one of the main things that I talked about this whole season, about leaving a ton of yards, came back and, it haunted us again during this game. And they were able to make a 6-yard run for a first down, and then they pretty much just sealed the game right there. I knew as soon as the first down was complete that, that was it. That was the final play. The only thing that would have saved us was a missed field goal, and their kicker had not missed one time throughout the whole season at home. So I was like, it's not going to happen. Like, he's going to make it through the uprights. This game's over. And that's exactly what happened. So as much as I feel like that overtime was more luck than anything, it really was the Chargers' fault for messing up that game. Justin Herbert had to come out multiple times and just like save the Chargers from imminent doom, pretty much. We were down 2 scores, and one of those scores had to be a 2-point conversion to tie it, and they managed to do that both times. And Herbert was going on. He went for it 4th down like 8 times in a row, which
that
is
like what, in the 4th quarter, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm just like, my goodness, like, what's going on here? Why is it like 4th down consistently? Like, do like 5 or 6 plays, right?
Yeah, so that's what ended up happening. Like, it was 4th down back to back to back, and again, it was because of those drop passes, and that really like messed up the entire flow of the game. It put way too much pressure on Herbert. Like, it. The more I talk about it, the more I start realizing that a lot of what we are weak at kind of was a culmination during this game. The special teams was bad. The run defense was bad. The right tackle was horrible. Like, Storm Norton, he needs to be released right away. Every player on right tackle needs to be replaced, because that's the where we got the most pressure from I think his last name is Max with 2X.
No, it's a Max Crosby. Yeah, the guy
Max
where
Crosby.
he has like a lot of tattoo. He's like 6 feet tall, like 6'3" tall, 3 feet tall, like 6'3" tall. He's super tall, but then you could see like he was constantly pressuring the right tackle, and I think he almost got to like Herbert like almost every single time towards the end of the 4th quarter.
Yes. Yeah, so it just wasn't great. Like, they, and at the end of the season, you start as a coach. I think it's easier to find the weaknesses of a team because you have a lot more, footage from all those previous weeks that happened, and the Raiders were pretty good at exploiting those weaknesses in those areas, and that's how they were able to convert points. The reason I say like, hey, like, it wasn't the Raiders like beating us completely and it was mostly us messing up ourselves is because, during the 3rd quarter, there was no points scored at all. A lot of the points that were scored by the Raiders were points that we gave up to them. And that was just my general feeling of the game. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm a Chargers fan, and maybe a Raiders fan is going to comment down below saying, hey, this and this stat. Derek Carr was doing a good job. And again, the Chargers report is a very biased report and will always be a biased report because it's from a Chargers fan perspective. I'm sure the Niners report is, in similar fashion. It's very biased because it's from a Niners fan. And even if I had to give the Niners report, it would be biased because I love all California teams, but the Chargers just happen to be my team. So, yeah, not the outcome that I was predicting. I really thought that it was going to... Well, I said last week it was going to be a close game. It was a close game. It was pretty much down to the last seconds. And, I don't blame the Raiders for going for it. There's no ill will here. Am I sad that the Chargers aren't in the playoffs? Absolutely. Am I angry? Not really. It was a close game. It was probably the best game of the year. So I'm happy that was a great game.
Yeah.
All right, Lee. Now it's time for the 49ers report of the week.
Yeah, I think you and I, we both watched this game. Your dad also watched this game as well. We weren't watching the game in the same room, obviously, but I think you could tell my general feeling about the first half of the game is that I was really disappointed. I didn't like the score at all. If I just told you that in the very first half, like the first half, it was 17-0, Rams were up. I honestly thought about that watching the game at all because I actually left the room. I was like, look, I cannot watch this because it was just too much for my health. Like, what if I get a heart attack? No, not that I would. But the thing is that it was like up 17-0. And then I was like, at that point, I was like, well, prior to the game, the Niners were 5-0 against the Rams. And I was thinking like, well, what is the chance of Niners beating the Rams again? So to make it like 6-0, 6-0 against the Rams. And I always feel like with these two teams, it's always like a coin toss. Like they're just like a rivalry. It's a divisional rivalry. And I just feel like Rams overall are a better team, right? Like they have a lot of good players, and it seems like the players are healthy too. Their wide receiver is great. They have a really good defense. So when they were up 17-0, I was kind of like losing the hope. And towards the end of this first half, the Niners finally were able to score a field goal, make it like 17-3. Now, second half, when it started, I'm just like, you know what? If the Rams just keep running the ball and then just keep holding on to the ball, I think the Niners will be out of the playoffs. Now, keep in mind that this is a very important game for the Niners. If they don't win the game, then the Saints will take over the 7th seed or the 6th seed, and the Niners will be eliminated. So going to the second half, I was just like, I don't really know. And by then, I think Jimmy already do like one interception or two. And then it was ugly. Like the first half was ugly. And then, honestly, I was thinking like, yeah, I think the Trillions is coming and then substitute Jimmy Garoppolo. But it didn't happen. I think Kyle Shanahan has a lot of faith in Jimmy, right? And so Jimmy was there. And in the third quarter, they scored 14 points. In the fourth quarter, they scored 7 points. What was more impressive about this game is that in the fourth quarter, I think Jimmy just went through that 2-minute drill. They were like down by 7 points. So in that 2 minutes, miracle happened, right? So the miracle happened. Jimmy was able to do a touchdown, and they were able to tie the game and went into overtime. Now, this is the game where the Niners actually win the toss in the overtime. But what was a little bit like worrying me is that their offense couldn't really go anywhere. I think at one point they were very close to the red zone, but they elected to kick a field goal. That gave the Rams another chance to score a touchdown or just to tie the game again. So it was kind of like nerve-wracking because after they kicked the field goal to lead by 3 points, the Rams actually had a chance to come back and just get a touchdown and win the game. They were really close. But I have to say, I have to thanks to Matthew Stafford for throwing that interception to Ambry Thomas. That was amazing. I don't think he was throwing that ball on purpose. I think that if he do it further, I think it would be an easy touchdown, right?
Tinfoil hat here. I actually think he threw it on purpose.
No, I don't think so. I think because I remember you told me that Matthew Stafford tend to like not do so well under pressure, and I think Jimmy is the same way. But I feel like Jimmy really poor dude like on that game, like under pressure. Somehow he was playing really well. And then I think one of the key things I have to highlight here is that the run offense actually worked for the Niners. That was what allowed them to beat the Rams in the previous game when they won like 30-10. That's what worked for the Niners. They just keep on running, running, running. If you run it like if Niners were able to run like 40 times, there will be any team very easily. That's only if it happened, right? And so I think that was what happened to the Niners, right? The second half, they start executing run game. And then they were very successful. You can see the whole time, I feel like the second half, you could see that the Niners were in control like of the game. And so that was one thing that I know is was very successful. And I think their players really step up. Deebo Samuel, he actually threw a touchdown to Juwan Jennings. That was kind of like weird because you didn't expect the Niners to have like a trick play in place, but that was great. You have a wide receiver, a running back, whatever you want to call him. He actually threw a 25-yard touchdown. So I thought that was pretty good. So overall, that was good. They made it into the playoffs because, like I said, I was really kind of like giving up like after the first half just because like the score was terrible. Like I think we talked about this through Twitter. We're like, I was like, yeah, I think the game is over. I'm just gonna do something else. And then you were like, whoa, they scored. Now it's 17-10 and blah blah blah. So it was a good game for the Niners. So I think this is a great way to kind of like end the regular season with 10-7. I think at the beginning I say they might be 11-6. So that was very close. There were some games they should have won, but they didn't. But moving forward, we'll see how Jimmy will do in the next game, or this week's game, and so on. I really hope that this week is not going to be his last game, but that's what everything is hopeful, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I watched this game as well. So technically, I also have a report to give here too. So something that Lee didn't mention is that the game went into overtime. So the Niners, yes, were down 17-0 at the beginning of the first half. I was actually rooting for the Niners here because I wanted the Niners in the playoffs. I thought, hey, all three of the California teams are going to make the playoffs tonight. So it's going to
Okay, let me ask you one thing let me ask you one thing real quickly. What was your dad's reaction when...
I was like, what? Like, you rooted for the Rams the whole season, and now you're rooting for the 49ers? I'm like...
No, Dad, you should be like, dude, Dad, we need to get as many California teams in as possible.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, he's the one who told me that I should love all California teams. And now he's out here, like, trying to make sure the Niners aren't in the playoffs. And I'm like, okay. So, yes, I was rooting against my dad's team. And he was not very... it was whatever to him. But, he was not, super happy that I was... rooting for the Niners, but yeah, I think I used my luck during the Niners game because the Chargers didn't make it, but at least 2 out of the 3 California teams are in the playoffs. So I went to overtime, and it was not like the Chargers game at all. The Niners got it right away, and actually no, the Rams got the ball first, and then
no. I don't think so. I think the Niners got the ball first.
Did they?
Yeah, they won the toss. They got the ball first. But they only kicked a field goal. Yeah.
Oh, right. They kicked.
Yeah, and then that's what I was kind of upset because I feel like they could push it for a touchdown, but they didn't. And then you told me like, Lee, you were too harsh.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for clarifying what had happened.
Yeah.
Because I remember that text now. You're like, oh, they should have gone for the touchdown. I'm like,
yeah,
Lee,
totally.
You have one of the best defenses in the league, and you don't trust them?
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't understand the logic. Like, why would you go for a field goal? Like, what is there to lose, right?
Because the defense is better than the Jimmy G offense.
Okay,
and I trust the defense more than I trust the offense.
Okay. Granted. But I just like, dude, man, like, I mean, there are like some parts where I feel like the Niners offense wasn't that bad. That was
No.
But you're right. I think
it wasn't clicking.
Yeah. But I think maybe at the moment, I think that's what the coaching staff were thinking. They're probably like, well, we're not gonna risk it because I think it's like maybe 4th and 3, 4th and 4, or something like that. And yeah, but that's how I was thinking. I was like, what? This is overtime. Like, if you're not, you want to minimize the chance that Matthew Stafford gets the ball, right? Like, this guy could throw it like very far. Like, you don't want him to like, throw it to like Cooper Cup.
Right, right, right. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. But I think maybe like you were saying, they were thinking the same thing that I was. Whereas
Yeah,
they trust the defense more than they trust the offense. So just go for the guaranteed points that you have right now.
right. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, exciting game. Niners make the playoffs, and yeah. Fortunately, we don't get. Both those teams do not play each other in the first round. I believe the only way that this matchup can happen again is in the NFC Championship, because they're on opposite sides of the bracket.
Yeah, I think, I think both teams have like a very steep hill to climb. Uh, I think for Niners in particular, I cannot speak too much about the Rams because they beat the Buccaneers before. Um, I don't know. I think they will have to beat the Buccaneers and the Packers. I think that would be very interesting. But we'll see. Like, I don't mind. It will be fun to see them play against each other again in the NFC Championship if that happens.
That's my desired outcome, is that both those teams are in the NFC Championship.
Oh my
Because
god, that would be.
this was a great game. Like, as soon as the second half started, it never stopped being a good game.
Oh yeah, like the first half was just like, oh, are you serious? Like, are we done? Like,
Yeah. Second half was great. I want the rematch. I want to see. This is the type of championship game I want to see.
yeah, it's not a blow up game. Yeah, I think what worries me about the most about this game is that if you don't watch the Niners game very closely, there's something about their defense that really worries me. Is that they usually are able to stop their opponents, like get them to like third down, right? Now, for whatever reason, they couldn't stop the other team from getting a third down conversion. That really shown, I think, in the first half. Like the defense was doing a phenomenal job in stopping them, but then for whatever reason, the Rams keep getting the first down, and I'm just like, oh, this is exactly what I was talking about, because that's how they lost the game to the Titans. Like,
Right.
Titans was doing the same thing. They were very successful with the third down conversion, keep getting a bunch of first downs and to win the game. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, yeah, if we lose, I'm just gonna say that was the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the Chargers and the 49ers report for this week. It is the final Chargers report. Next week will be only a 49ers report, because yeah, they're playing in the wild card this week. So yeah. Until next season, this has been the Chargers report. Now let's talk about the final week of the NFL, and we're going to talk about a couple of games, and we're maybe going to talk about 5 games, and that's about it. We're not going to discuss too much. We'll be quickly moving on to the playoffs after that.
Exactly.
Okay. NFL Week 18 recap. We had the Indianapolis Colts falling to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Are you serious?
And I was so shocked that this happened. Because, it was a meme the entire week. It was like the meme of memes. Like, everyone was saying, oh, what if Jacksonville beats the Colts and then the Chargers and the Raiders tie at the end? And I was like, that's not going to happen. The Colts are such a better team than the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you and I were going back and forth conversations.
Yeah.
You were saying, like, it's not going to happen. But
yeah,
it
well,
happened.
no, the thing is that prior to that, I think the Colts had not won in Jacksonville for a really long time, right?
6 years.
Yeah. So I was like I said, right? Like, what is the chance of the Colts like losing again, right? And they did. Like, they choked. Like, they literally choked. Like, I couldn't understand why. Like, I kind of watched the highlight. I watched the NFL Red Zone while I was paying attention to the other game, but I was just like, I could not understand what I was seeing. Like Colts, they play as if they were like struggling, like they were like bottom tier team or something. Like
They
which,
did not look good. This was
yeah,
a horrible game.
yeah. I think they trying to pass too much or something. And at times I see that they did have some success with running Jonathan Taylor. But even then, I don't know why they didn't choose to run him more. Like I was very confused. But yeah, it did not look good at all. I think the score wasn't pretty either.
No, 26-11, you got blown out pretty much.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was keeping an eye on this game. I didn't actually think, I thought the Colts were just going to, tie it up real quick, finish it off, and there would be nothing more to it. But yeah, apparently Jacksonville pulled through, and this set the internet on fire. Everyone's saying, "Oh, it's gonna be tied tonight. It's gonna be a rigged game. It's gonna be, both teams are gonna kneel down. Like it's gonna be 30 minutes." And I'm like, "No, it's not.
well,
It's
that would be
literally
a
not."
that would be a Disney movie if that were the case, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not happening. This is reality. Um, but the
So
Colts were trailing the entire time. Like they were never close, right? I
no, no,
believe
no.
so.
They were never close.
Yeah,
The whole game, like I had my phone on the game, and I
right.
was just lightly following it, checking every once and again, and
Uh-huh.
never were the Colts in contention.
Yeah. Well, that was a game that the Colts needed to win to have to have any like.
Win and in. That was the whole motto of the
Oh,
game.
that's all they need. Okay, yeah. So they were pretty much in the same situation as Raiders and the Chargers. Yeah.
They made it a little easier for the Chargers, but not that it mattered anyways.
Yeah.
All right. The Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. The only reason we're covering this is because it was really close for some reason, and the Titans managed to win without Derrick Henry as well, and they also tied up the number 1 seed. They didn't even give the Chiefs a chance to take that
Right.
spot.
No, the only thing I want to comment here is that there's something about the Texans. Like I think they have the potential actually. With
They are finding
Davis
the rhythm.
Mills. Yeah, I think they were able to find a rhythm to score a touchdown very quickly. So I don't know, like if they fix their lineup, they have some potential, I think.
Yeah. Especially with Deshaun Watson made a public appearance. I don't know if we talked about this last week. I can't
No, we
remember.
didn't. Yeah.
But I don't think we did. But yeah, so Deshaun Watson made a public appearance after he's already cleared out his name. He settled out of court, which is not an admission to guilt, but it's also not denying any of the claims either. It's just they've managed to figure it out, privately. So the people who felt like they were harassed got their money. We don't know if those things are true or not. So from my point of view, I'm just not gonna talk about that type of thing anymore. Maybe purely like historical, like informational in future podcasts. But for the most part, I think Deshaun Watson's gonna come back next year and play for the Houston Texans. Unless Houston is looking to try to build up some sort of team around Mills, and then they could just trade him for either a couple players and a couple like late round picks.
Yeah. What would you do? Like, I would trade him. I mean, Mills is not bad, but I like Watson better. But didn't he get signed didn't he like have a really good contract, like a lot of money there?
Yeah, and it really is going to be where Deshaun Watson is right now.
Right.
You know how like it has been a whole year, and things could have changed. His opinion could have changed. Maybe he wants to put in another year, see how it goes. Maybe he's done. He doesn't want to play. He's not in the situation where he can bargain too much, because I think the only option he really has if he doesn't want to play for the Texans is retirement, or he's either benched or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not looking great. But yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, focusing back on what's really important, the Titans lock up the number 1 seed when they won this game, and that's about it. Okay, the 49ers versus the LA Rams. Like we were saying, it went into overtime, and it was a great game. Niners managed to score a field goal and stop the LA Rams offense in overtime. Right. So that's how they won the game. It was a good game. Loved watching it. I hope to watch it again in the NFC Championship. All right. Actually, that's it. The LA Chargers versus the Las Vegas Raiders in a game that we talked about earlier in the podcast. Chargers win. I wish. The Las Vegas Raiders win, and they're going to the playoffs. This team came in with a lot of adversity. A bunch of players who got into problems with the law, the passing of John Madden, the firing of their coach. So, I mean, they got kind of like a Cinderella story going on here, with just a bunch of bad things happening to them, and those guys overcoming adversity. So, I mean, they won the game. It was a close game, and it was a good way for the Chargers to go. All right, so now we will talk about the Super Wild Card Weekend starting on Saturday, actually, which actually I'm not surprised at all that they're spreading out all these games, because a true NFL fan's going to watch all of these games back to back to back to back to back. Some of us got work and church, so we won't be watching some of these, but yeah, excited to announce that we will be doing a live stream for this game, the Las Vegas Raiders and the Cincinnati Bengals. That's I think that's 1:30 here in the Pacific time.
Yeah.
So me and Lee will be covering this team. Lee, what are your thoughts about this game?
Oh, I think this is going to be a great matchup. I just want to see what Joe Burrow can do, with the Raiders. I think last time they meet up, they actually beat the Raiders. But I don't know. I think this is going to be another fun game. I think Bengals are a pretty good team. I think the way for them to win is to be consistent. Don't commit a lot of turnovers. But that's the same thing that you can say about the Raiders, right? So I think this is going to be a very exciting game. I think it could be a shootout game again. Both teams score at least 30 points.
Yeah, I agree with you here. It's going to be a really close game. The Raiders are coming in pretty hot. Actually, both of these teams are pretty hot right now.
Yeah.
The Raiders managed to make an incredible comeback this season, beating the Colts, beating the Chargers, and they really are on that roll. They're 10-7, and they really found their groove after all that stuff that happened to them throughout the season.
Right.
Bengals kind of the same thing. They started out a little bumpy throughout the season, and then they closed out the season pretty well. They beat their last couple of opponents, and they beat Kansas City, which is also another team that's been on a roll.
Right.
So yeah, this is a really exciting matchup in my opinion. I think it's going to be better than the next matchup we're going to talk about in a bit.
Yeah. And then the one thing I want to kind of note is that what's interesting about Bengals is that I think last week they benched their starting players. So they rest their starting players. And I think they were in preparation for this game, but either way, I don't think the Raiders is going to be we saw, the Raiders is probably going to play really hard. So yeah, I think this is going to be, like you said, it's going to be a much better game than the next one that we'll be talking about.
Yeah. So I personally have the Bengals winning here. I'm more of a Joe Burrow fan than I am a Las Vegas Raiders fan or a Derek Carr fan. Even though Derek Carr is right here down the road from me in Fresno, I'm not a huge Fresno State guy, so I got Joe Burrow winning this one.
Nice.
Who do you got, Lee?
I got Bengals as well.
Yeah. I think they're going to be more exciting to watch. And I want the Kansas City and Bengals rematch anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. But of course, like we were saying that, with all the adversities against the Raiders, maybe they'll pull something out, pull something due.
Yeah. All right. The New England Patriots versus the Buffalo Bills in what I think is going to be the most boring matchup this week. We saw the Buffalo Bills dominantly win against the New England Patriots in their last encounter. And in the previous game after that, which did we do a live stream of that?
No, we didn't do any live stream about those two teams.
Okay. So I think I watched the game and it was just boring.
No, they even it up, right? So first the Patriots won and then the Bills won. So they were even.
So they're 1-1, and this is their third encounter this season. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people are expecting, just because these teams know each other so well now. That's usually what happens when you get divisional matchups. But I truly think that it's gonna come down to the weather.
Yeah, I heard it's gonna snow there, and or if it's snow and windy, that's even worse. But then I think the weather is gonna have a lot of say in the game.
Yeah, not Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Josh Allen is pretty much like a passing quarterback. Yes, he has the ability to run. He's a lot like Herbert. He can run, but he chooses not to at times. And I really think that's going to be like the thing here is that if he can't pass, it's going to be a whole lot harder to get this offense going, as we've seen in previous weeks where the Bills slow down a lot when they don't find their groove with the offense. So yeah, depending on the weather, I think the Patriots squeeze a win here, but I really want the Bills to win because I just think it makes for better football.
Yeah. I think the Patriots might have a good shot here. So I'm gonna say like the Patriots might win, but maybe by only a few points.
Okay. So we both got Patriots winning this one. Okay. Now we get to Sunday, and this is a 10 a.m. game? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. Tampa Bay shows up sometimes, doesn't show up other times. I want to say that because it's the playoffs that Brady's going to be in that playoff mode, and Gronk also has that playoff mode, and so does Mike Evans, and that they might perform better than usual. They tend to do that during playoff games. But if it's anything like last year when Tampa Bay almost lost to Washington football team, this might actually be their weakest, I guess, state as a team. So take them out early, or probably going to go all the way to the NFC Championship. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for Philadelphia here. I've stated before I'm not a Tom Brady fan. Never have, never will be. Doesn't matter who's on Tampa Bay. I just want Philly to win.
Yeah. I think it's unlikely unless the Buccaneers will choke. So I think the Buccaneers will win this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some arguments for the Eagles is that Jalen Hurts has been playing fantastic. Obviously, this is his first playoff run. So, nerves can get the best of you. But I think they're doing a good job. Philly has a decent defense. So as long as they can, channel their inner saints in this situation, I think they have a shot. Obviously, Tampa Bay, more experience, won the Super Bowl last year. And they have, a roster that has a lot of playoff experience.
Right. The key to win this game for the Eagles is to hire their entire defensive sense. just hire them. Have the Saints player dress up as in Eagles uniform, and let's go.
Hire the defensive coordinator for the.
There you go.
The Saints.
Yeah.
Anywho, so yeah. So Lee's got Tampa Bay. I got Philly here simply because I don't like Tampa Bay. I mean Tom Brady. So that's our prediction. All right. San Francisco 49ers versus the Dallas Cowboys. Lee, I already know who you got, but
Yeah,
realistically, objectively, who do you got here?
I think objectively, I think the Cowboys have some edge here. I think uh, that Prescott is pretty good as a quarterback. And I was listening to radio, and then we're saying that when he was rushed, he was able to complete his throws, like the passes, and I think that's something that Jimmy doesn't have. But that doesn't take away my leaning for the Niners. I really think that I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blow up. Hey, if the Niners win in a blow up fashion, and I'll take that as well, but I think it's very unlikely. I think this one is going to be a very close game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you here. Dallas has been playing incredibly consistent football since the beginning of the season. They've kind of had some flaws here and there at the end of the season. I don't think it's anything they haven't been able to correct. Having a perfect team is something that's only been close to be achieved one time. And no, I'm not talking about the Lions losing all their games. I'm talking about, I think the Patriots almost went perfect season one of those years. But yeah, Dallas, again, has been playing very consistent football. 12-5 is nothing to scoff at. They won their division. They've been facing some decent opponents. So I think that they're going to be able to just edge out the Niners here just by a little. Obviously, I want the Niners to win. Other things that could turn the tide is that Dallas is a pretty heavy team on offense. The defense is not all there. So the Niners could really come and upset the Cowboys by playing their best defense against Dak Prescott in a roster that's pretty offensive oriented. If that offense collapses under the Niners defense, this could actually be a pretty good sign that the Niners are going to win. We'll have to see by the end of the first half. Even if the Niners don't score or let them score, they've shown that they can come back from huge deficits like 17-0 like they showed last week.
Yeah, that was crazy against a really good Rams team. Yeah.
Objectively, I have to take Dallas here because they're just an overall better team. But if the defense really shows up for the Niners, it's going to be hard for Dallas to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. The team of destiny, the team that is prophesized by the urinating tree to go to the Super Bowl, the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, Lee. Who do you got?
I got the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, unless the Ben Roethlisberger doesn't want to retire, right? Because we said maybe the last game would be his last game, but it wasn't his last game.
Yeah. So we saw his last home game. The only way that they have another home game is actually not at all. That was his last home game.
Yeah.
So just because they're a lower seed, even if they win out, they still have to travel everywhere. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be, I think for the memes, I want Pittsburgh to win, because I think it'd be hilarious. I'm going to be definitely watching the urinating tree stream while I watch this game. But I know Kansas City's going to win. They're just a better team overall. Like their defense is better. Their offense is better. I mean, as lucky as Pittsburgh got to get to be in the playoffs, the only reason they're in the playoffs is because the Lions weren't able to beat them, and they have the one tie instead of the loss.
I mean, who would have thought that tie game would help them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Here we are, Pittsburgh versus Kansas City. I got Kansas City.
Yeah. Same here.
All right, the final game for Super Wild Card Weekend, and it is the Arizona Cardinals versus the Los Angeles Rams on a Monday game, which should be pretty entertaining since there's not a lot of things to watch on Monday.
Right. I think this game is going to be super interesting because I really don't know. um, it could go either way, you know?
Yeah, you can go either way, mostly because like both these teams have had a lot of ups and downs. Like, Cardinals started almost undefeated the
Oh yeah,
entire
they were
season.
undefeated. I think they were like at one point was like 9-0 or something.
Yeah, they were
I was
9-0.
oh my goodness.
And
yeah.
then they lost one game, and then they lost Kyler Murray, and he got injured, and then he came back, but he wasn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like similar to last season in the sense that they showed up, they were really strong, and then they started losing a bunch of games. But they pretty much had created like their own safety net at that point this season, to where like it didn't matter how many they lost, they were gonna probably make the playoffs anyways.
Right.
And that's kind of where we're at with the Cardinals, is that they're in the playoffs, but they look quite weak. They just lost to Seattle, one of the most dysfunctional teams this season.
Yeah.
And a team that's looking like it's going to be collapsing at the end of this, after all this free agency goes through.
Yeah.
So, to lose to them, that's pretty rough. So I'm not sure what's going to happen during this game. If they come back, the team that they were at the beginning of the season, they have a pretty good shot of winning. If they come as the team that's losing to other teams that are collapsing, I think the Rams got it in the bag. But that doesn't excuse the Rams, because they also have difficulties of their own. They're struggling with the offense. The defense is doing actually pretty all right. It's not the explosive defense that everyone like fears. I think the Niners proved that they have a better defense than the Rams.
You know what it is? Because this year, Rams they don't have Brandon Staley. There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Brandon Staley is not with them anymore.
Yeah, and
You're
I think
right.
the Cardinals. The issue with the Cardinals is that if you kind of like follow the game from last week, Kyler Murray was like sacked 5 times by Seahawks defense.
Right.
Like I'm just like, wait, what's going on here? Like how can your O-line like allow them to do that? But like I mean for both teams, I think the O-line really have to step up.
Yeah. Kyler Murray has been sacked like too many times. The problem is that this is a problem like league wide, is that not a lot of teams have like protection for their quarterbacks. I mean, you see it in the Bengals, you see it in the Chargers, you see it, pretty much with any team that has a young quarterback, except the Patriots. They have a pretty decent line, but that's something that they do like year round. That's something that they pride themselves on, is having a great line. That way, it doesn't matter what QB you put in there, he's going to do at least decent. And going back to this is that, yes, Kyler Murray is a young quarterback compared to other quarterbacks in the league. But yeah, he doesn't have that protection that other teams have, like the Patriots, and he's suffering from it too. So, like you were saying, but it's the same thing with the Rams. Like they have a decent line, but Stafford is interception prone. So, I think they're both pretty even. I mean, the Rams, it's not that they weren't consistent and then inconsistent. They've just been inconsistent the whole season. They're consistently inconsistent.
Man, but looking at their record, they're like phenomenal. I mean, I just
5,
like.
But if you look at the losses that they had, they were really like, there were some really dumb losses in there that shouldn't have happened. So
Yeah, well, I remember you were telling me like one of the game they won or they lost. It was almost like you told me like the Rams are very beatable, right? Because their defense didn't seem like was all that strong, or like their O line was doesn't seem to protect Stafford that well, right?
Yeah, I think the O-line actually does a decent job of protecting Stafford. It's just like sometimes Stafford takes so much time releasing the ball that I mean no line's gonna hold more than like 10 seconds. So they give this guy like 10 seconds of protection, which for most quarterbacks is like a lot of time.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of
So
time to read the
so then
field. Yeah,
like the O line like slowly starts collapsing around him, and then that's usually when something bad happens,
yeah,
because he either tries to throw the ball in like an emergency situation, or like the line collapses around him and like hits somebody and he causes a forced fumble. So like you saw it in overtime against the Niners, pretty much the second to last play. He goes back. The line's collapsing around him. Like he sees it, he senses it. He throws the ball and it goes right into the Niners' hand,
yeah.
and that's how the game ended. Like he needs to have a quicker release time, and I know it's hard to teach that when you have a quarterback that has been in the league for such a long time like Stafford
Mm-hmm.
is. He really is a veteran of the sport. So it's hard to ask him to learn to be quicker or to, get faster, get better at his craft.
Right.
So that's just the situation the Rams are in. At the end of the day, I think the Rams are going to come back and win this game
Yeah,
just
I
because.
think they really want to win this one. I feel like with all the transactions, the trades, acquiring players, I think they really want to win this year. So like, yeah, I do think that the Rams will have an edge over the Cardinals.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. You and I have been talking about this pretty much this whole year, is that the Rams have done so many transactions that it seems like they're going for, it's all or nothing this season. We either
Mm-hmm.
win it now or we suffer from, um, dead cap, or having to cut players and stuff like that. So they're really making that Super Bowl push this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think they win this one just because it seems like they really want it more than the Cardinals.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so actually that brings us to the end of the preview and predictions. I don't believe there's any NFL news as of right now. The only news that came out of Week 18 was that the Raiders were going for that tie on the second to last play, and that the timeout caused the Raiders to go for it for the win instead. So that's the
Yeah.
only NFL news I've heard of. Lee, do you have anything?
We do have like quite a few NFL like coaches got fired.
Oh yes, yes, Black Monday.
Yeah, so surprisingly, Dolphins like Brian Flores, his fire. I don't know why Flores is fire, or was
He was doing
fire.
really good.
I don't
Not
know.
really.
I think what happened is like maybe I heard like it was like the management and the coach wasn't really in agreement on a lot of stuff. Um, so yeah, and I think the Broncos head coach was
Vic
let go.
Fangio's been fired. Yes.
Yeah, and Joe Judge was let go. He was fired. The New York Giants. Mike Zimmer was let go. He was fired as well. I think the GM of the Vikings was let go as well. So was gone. I don't know any. I don't know if anyone else are gone, but that was like some of the news I heard. Right. So like you have a bunch of coaches that are looking for new opportunities now.
Yeah. As far as like, I can only speak about Vic Fangio because I've watched some Broncos game this season. That one makes sense. He wasn't very offensive like minded. Um, I can't believe that they made a push for Teddy Bridgewater and not for any other type of quarterback. I guess they had made a push for Deshaun before he got into all of this sort of legal trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and they tried the Aaron Rodgers thing, but I'm surprised that they passed on Justin Fields because Justin Fields was showing so much, like he showed so much potential this year. It's a possibility. Chicago is a weird town as far as football. They're not always there. So, maybe they get him back at some point in the future. Obviously, I'm not saying this year or next year or anything like that, but maybe years down the line.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I forgot to mention Matt Nagy is fired.
Oh,
too.
Matt Nagy. Yes.
I forgot about it.
Matt Nagy definitely deserved to be fired.
Yeah.
Because he almost ruined Justin Fields, which is, amazing. Because he was actually playing pretty all right.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. So there are a lot of teams that are looking for head coaches. There are several teams looking for quarterbacks. But I think all those things will become more clear once the playoffs is over, once the season's really over. But for now, this is just some of the things, like some of the news that happened this week.
Yeah, I don't really have too many opinions about some of those other coaches. Again, if your team had a losing record or, you did some really bad things like Urban Meyer, then you probably deserve to be fired.
I mean, what about if you get hired by the Dolphins? I don't know if it's gonna. It was just funny to see like some of the memes out there on Twitter.
Tua still has potential. Like, I know, like on Twitter, like people like to rage war between quarterbacks of that class, of the Justin Herbert, Tua, and Burrow. Like that's the big three debate that everyone keeps, bringing up because it's similar to Roethlisberger, Rivers and Manning, and so I think that's going to be the eternal debate: is who is the better quarterback? Herbert, Tua, or Burrow. And I don't really have an answer right now, and I'm not going to have an answer for the next 5 to 10 years either.
Oh yeah, we probably will not know till like a few years down the road.
But I think there's time for Tua to make a comeback. Like, it's not the end of the world. I mean, even if you're like, he's like at a Phillip Rivers level right now. He hasn't quite figured out the offense. It's getting there. Like, there's been a bunch of coaching changes, player changes. Right. The Dolphins just need to find some semblance of balance, and Tua just has to keep working to getting better.
Yeah, I think he needs to stay healthy. I think that's the key for him, and I think I'm praying for Dolphins not to have like a roller coaster seasons. That this is like the second season where they have lost a lot of games and then they start winning a lot of them. But it was not enough to get them into the playoffs this season. So I kind of hope that they won't go through this roller coaster again, like in future seasons. But I mean, it's the Dolphins.
Just to give Dolphins hope, hope. It's not all about the quarterback either. I mean, the Steelers in the playoffs, and they have a terrible quarterback. In context of the year, not like throughout the history of the Steelers program. But I mean, Herbert's not in the playoffs, and we have an amazing quarterback. Just a lot of the pieces around the team are not there for a playoff run yet.
Yeah, and it's very hard because like when you're playing, you're thinking about you're playing as a 53-man like team against the other team, and a lot of things have to go right in your way to win the game, right?
Yeah.
Plus a little bit of luck.
Yeah, luck and just keeping the mistakes down, which when you have 53 components to a team, that's hard, man. Like, just don't beat yourself up. Don't beat like people in your team up because you make mistakes or they make mistakes. At the end of the day, it's a team sport, and the best team's gonna win at the end of the season with a lot of luck and a lot of reduction of mistakes. Yeah,
I agree.
So, yeah, nice positive message to end today's podcast.
First time, right?
Nice. Got anything else for us today?
No, that's pretty much it. Very excited for this wild card weekend. Looking forward to our live stream on Saturday.
Yep. All right. that'll end the podcast for this week. Thank you everyone for watching. As always, remember to like the video because it helps us out. Subscribe if you enjoy the content. You can also follow me at Zephyr the Scribe. I tweet out wrestling things and football things. It's probably going to be mostly wrestling things for the foreseeable future as Chargers season has ended. And you can follow Lee if he lets you at Amsley Huang. It's a private account, so you got to request. Or you could follow both of us simultaneously at the Joe Lee Podcast on Twitter. We occasionally tweet stuff. And yeah, live stream on Saturday. We'll be covering the Raiders and the Bengals game. Should be a good one. For Joseph Yanez, this is my partner Lee. We will see you next week.
See ya.